Fire by piece.
Fire by piece.
One gun. Fire. One gun. Fire. 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 Secure your piece.
Fire, secure the piece.
Cease fire. Secure the piece.
How's that?
Wow.
And this is a real thrill for us to be up here, be able to do this right on this field. You get some of that echo rolling up over the hill. Look how much smoke's been produced here just by firing these 4 weapons. Now, a couple things you need to keep in mind. When we're firing these guns here today, we're using half of the powder charge. We're only using a pound of powder. Normally these guns would have fired up to 2.5 pounds of powder every time they were fired. There's no projectile in front of them either. For some reason, Allegheny Power was real upset with the idea of us lobbing shells down there past their power lines. So we don't have a lot of projectiles in front of the powder charges. So you got to imagine twice the powder and a projectile in front of it. How much louder these weapons would have been if they were being fired up here. Plus,
Fire.
what we're going to do now is we're going to do a section fire. What we had done earlier, we fired by piece, each gun firing individually. Now we're going to do a section fire where 2 guns in the section will fire simultaneously. Okay, so again, I remind you, make sure you protect your hearing, but still it's a cool echo.
Right section. Fire.
Never really satisfied until we set off at least one car alarm. One of the soldiers that joined the Jeff Davis Artillery in July of 1861, his name was John Purfoy. And he writes after the battle. He talks about how severe it was, and he mentions this very thing, that when they start taking fire from their right flank, he's at the #1 gun position. And in fact, he gets shot in the nose. And he said even with everything going on, he had to take the moment to reach up and give his nose a sharp tug just to make sure it wasn't shot clear off. The only way the battery could get out of this position was the #1 gun turned towards the Ohio regiments, fired a blast of canister, limbered up, and then left the field.
Fire.
As you see the detachment working around the gun, the only man that has a name is the gunner. He's the corporal. He's the one that's leading the group on the field here. All the rest of the detachment are simply referred to as cannoneers. Each one's identified by a number. The #1 man stands on the right front of the gun. He uses that device he has in his hand to sponge the tube. He keeps the sponge slightly damp. That helps to extinguish any embers that might be burning in the inside. The other end has a wooden block that he uses to ram the round down to the breech to seat it into the firing position. Opposite him, #2 man stands on the left front. The device he uses is called a worm. But every 5 or 6 rounds back then, we do it after every round for safety reasons. He'll search the tube to try to remove any debris that might be burning inside the gun there. He also serves as the loader for the detachment. He'll bring a round, when the round's brought forward, he puts it into the muzzle of the gun to be. #3 man stands on the right rear. He has several jobs. He keeps a leather sheath over his thumb, and he covers the hole at the back of the gun called a vent. This prevents air from moving back and forth through the gun. He also has a wire that he'll run down into the vent once the round has been seated into the firing position. It's called a priming wire. It breaks open the powder bag. And you notice he also moves around to the back of the gun to help position the gun for firing. #4 is our trigger man.
Solid shot.
He's the man that has all the fun. He's the guy that gets to pull the lanyard that fires the gun. 5 is the man that normally is in between the gun and limber. He's our marathon runner. He has to move back and bring each round up one at a time for loading. 6 and 7 would be back at the limber. They were the mathematicians. They're the ones that had to compute the burn time in seconds from the yardage we call out. They had to do all this in their head.
One gun. Fire. One gun. Fire. Fire!